Good morning, autonomizers and the whole wide world. Well, it's morning here. It could be afternoon, evening, wherever you are. Welcome. This is Do It Live Autonomy Podcast. Today on the show, we have a full house. It's awesome. Daniel, Tyler, Deirdre, Agnieszka, you're sick. What are you doing here? Hedemarrie, Lisa's in the background, and Tyler twice. Awesome. And we have a few attendees too. Welcome, everybody. We have a really exciting full meeting or a podcast for today. I'm really excited to get started. But first, we're going to go around the room and everybody tell me about a weekly win. What are you proud of accomplishing this week or even not proud of? Feel free to share that too. Tyler, you want to start us off?
Sure. So I ended last week talking about the business I was going to be launching this week, or at least getting started with some of the preliminary steps. And so I have made progress, even though it was more towards the end of the week. Sometimes when you want to get something done, you have to get a lot of other things out of the way first before you can actually have the time block needed to do the new thing that you're trying to incorporate, right? So as we juggle more and more, sometimes when I set out on a goal for a week, it doesn't get done till late Thursday and Friday afternoon, but hey, I'll take that as a win. And so obviously autonomy and the whole community has been very helpful in this direction and in this new endeavor. More details to each individual people that I'll need to work with through this will be coming out, and I'll appreciate the support moving forward with this.
Who would like to go next? Who's unmuted is what I said. And it wasn't me. Deirdre?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. The question was, what have I done this week? For me, it was honing in on my bios. That was really great. That was, I felt like that took a lot of pressure off.
Your personal bio?
Yeah, I can do personal bios. I have a technique down pat now that I'm proud of. And not only that, I have this, what was it? I wrote down, I just feel really happy that I can provide something really substantial to people, something that can really help them benefit themselves and to be able to communicate the values they offer.
That's fantastic. I got a clip of us going over doing a bio that I'm excited to share later in today's podcast. So we'll circle back around to that. Daniel, you proud of anything this week, or any hurdles still left to be jumped over?
Well, I don't know if I could count this as a point of pride, or it really has nothing to do with my decisions at all, but this was the first week that I worked by a true, honest-to-God, 40-hour, 5-day work week, like a good American adult. I've been bumped to full-time at my assembly line job. So, it's not a win due to my own choices per se, because they kind of sprung it on us all at the last minute, which, I mean, that's probably not the best way to run a business. Like, oh, by the way, starting next Monday, you're all working 40 hours. But that's what happened, and that's what I did. And I'm going to make the most of it. So I guess the win that I would say that I have managed to achieve is I'm going to make the best out of the situation of being cooped up in a factory and listen to I would say, a carefully curated playlist of podcasts and audiobooks with some music and some silence interspersed throughout, so I don't entirely lose my mind.
Nice. Do you have a method on how do you create a playlist that you don't have to fiddle with while you're working?
Yeah, I use Podcast Addict is the app. And so I'll download actual podcasts through it, But what's also nice about it is I can import MP3s from my computer. So I've got lectures and stuff like that, autonomy stuff, and I can just put it all into a nice playlist on the app, and it'll just bang them out one after the other for me.
Nice.
So that works pretty well.
Nice.
I'm going to try to, like I said, really curate all that stuff. But for now, this week, it was more of a random smorgasbord of different things. But going forward, I actually want to use that time productively. Got my little notebook in my pocket. I'm not afraid to get some grease on it, so I'll be using that too.
That's good. Thanks for that tip. I'm going to check out that app because if I don't prepare what I'm listening to, then I'll tend to just kind of watch my YouTube feed for whatever sensational video is just popping out, and I'm noticing the quality of information I'm taking in lessen because I'm not in full control of that. I'm feeling like, on the receiving end of like what others are creating instead of creating my own playlist.
Exactly. Yeah, this is a great tool. Sounds like it would be right up your alley.
Awesome. Hey, Tim, thanks for joining us, man. How you doing?
Joshua, great. How are you guys doing? It's great to see everybody this morning.
You too. You have any weekly wins you wanted to share?
Well, it's been a really good week for balance of going to work, exercising, family, and research. And maybe I've overstretched my research time a little bit because I've kind of gotten into the flow and been pounding out some slides, and had a chance to do a couple dry runs with autonomy community people this week, which was a lot of fun and got some good feedback. So the only question is, where do you stop, and then when do you call it done and move forward?
Yeah, do you think you'll have something ready to be shared with the community before the season's end?
Well, that depends on when the season ends. And I think I've got about 150 slides, but I don't want to, bore people, and we want to keep people interested, engaged, and curious, and looking for more. That's kind of what we're trying to achieve.
Awesome. Well, I really look forward to that. I still remember the slide, the presentation you did in season 1 for kids was intellectual self-defense for kids. Is that what it was?
Yeah. I mean, I'm really passionate about the research, and this community has been so supportive and helping me find resources, do dry runs, and be there to absorb the information, contribute, and just leads in all different directions. Anytime you pop onto the chat, you might find something that just blows your mind at any time of day or night. So it's really a matter of filtering and deciding how much time you want to spend on it and improving the quality of information. I really love what Daniel said about creating your own playlist and then filtering the information and improving the quality of the information that you intake, and then moving from consumption to production as we go forward.
Yeah, that's a really valuable concept that I'm just now starting to integrate and be able to self-examine.
So, Daniel, I'd be interested in your list of podcasts if you want to publish that at some point.
Screenshot that bad boy.
Yeah.
All right, you asked for it, man.
Yeah.
There's some wild stuff in there.
Hedemarrie, thank you so much for joining us again. How are you doing today? And do you have anything you want to share about this last week that you're proud of?
Well, you know that I have been very challenging life since November the 14th. I had been literally living in the hospital because my husband is fighting for his life. Actually, I think I'm the one that is fighting for his life because he still has not woken up. But yesterday I left the hospital. I found someone that let me stay in a home so that I don't have to spend money in a hotel. But I think despite the challenges, I'm grateful that the hospital took away the excuses to say, oh, I have to cancel my meetings because I'm here in the hospital. Instead, they provided an office where I could take showers from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. I usually was the first one to do that. And then they, at the same time, they provided a little space so I could have my meeting. Sometimes it was very noisy, but like Richard says, a level of complexity pushes us to do things of excellency with excellence. And so despite the challenges, I was able to have very, very phenomenal meetings. One of those was with you and Kara. Another one was with Amanda, and another one with Mike. So I'm very, very grateful for that. That was a tremendous win this week.
Yeah, I can contest to that. And I got a clip of our meeting that we'll share with that in this podcast too. So I'm looking forward to that. Thanks so much for being here. And the whole community, I'm sure, really hopes for a speedy recovery with your partner.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right, well, let's get this show underway. My first clip today has to do with something that we snuck into the course. Several weeks ago, I'll give you the premise. Several weeks ago, I was working on the website for Get Autonomy, and I was trying to build the foundation for it and was just having a really difficult time having a clear vision of what to create. I brought it up to our weekly marketing meeting, and it just wasn't getting a hell yeah from everybody. So I took a step back, reached out for a resource that I have. I have a dear friend who is a brand specialist. She develops branding and logos for businesses, and reached out to her because the foundation of Autonomy's branding hadn't fully been completed. We had a logo, we had some colors, but beyond that, I needed some more solidity of what Autonomy was in order for me to be building these websites. If the foundation wasn't laid, whatever I built was going to be shaky and uncertain. So we reached out, ended up having me and Rich, and Lauren is her name. We had a great meeting, got the vision. She went back, did her magic, and then we ended up having a follow-up meeting where she walks us through our styling guide that we received from her. And this is going to be a small clip from that, and the full half-hour interview is now in the course, and it's really, really phenomenal. I had to do a ton of post-editing because I wasn't happy with how I was able to capture our meeting, but I think it's watchable now. And soon we'll be releasing the PDF for everybody to see, maybe today. So sometime soon. But first off, let's check out this clip.
And what I like to try and convey in a mood board is really sort of the look and feel of where you're going. So perhaps you don't use all of these images in your branding, but it just helps for if somebody else in the company is designing something and your design is not always available, they know visually what to look for if they're looking for stock photography. And so again, your core values here, the top line is really some of the brand images that you'd already deciphered. And then what I wanted to build from there was sort of this voice of novel and fresh and creating something that people really find meaning with what it is that they're trying to create in the world. So some of that speaks to working in outdoor spaces, breaking the traditional office mold of what does work look like. So for instance, changing your environment completely, being able to be creative and innovative wherever you go. And we also spoke about some of those core values being collaboration and community. So also sort of bringing in that level of freedom and delight. And I've added these just to sort of add to the brand voice and continue that track of really this is trying what we're trying to point to as the style guide and where you're going. So those are the main elements I would provide in a style guide. Of course, you can build it to a much further extent, but that's a overview of, as a basic model, that is definitely what I would deliver to any business that is creating some branding for.
Well, I find it extremely helpful. Just one location to run back and grab the color codes is helpful, because I'm constantly searching all over the place to get a match.
Yeah.
So just having that one location to be able to do so. And so now that you're delivering this to the client, us, how I'll make use of that is taking it and giving it to our social media manager. And so she now has firm guidelines on what images to grab, what overlays to use, the logos, and which ones to use when, according to like the darkness of the photo or the lightness of the photo. I really like the values, and because that will essentially turn into copy that will help guide the copywriters into conveying the message with the text.
Yeah.
And that was really helpful also with the different weights, because we're going to be writing blogs on our website and inviting guest bloggers to write on our website. So now we have a guideline to tell them which weights to use with the font throughout the page. And so it all becomes more unified as a whole website. Extremely helpful to have a brand styling guide. What you started off seeing there too was a mood board. And that's where she went and collected a bunch of photos to be able to convey the imagery of the brand. I thought she did an exceptional job with that. And now we can deliver that to everyone in the Autonomy team, so that we're all being able to like reference a document on are we being on brand. She goes to continue. She continues on to talk about like why it's so important for brands to have solid branding as a foundation, because it really translates as the message conveyed to the audience and to the market. After creating several brands for myself, I've gone through the process of not getting solid branding, and you end up having multiple logos, just small variations all over the place that you have to clean up down the way. And it's something that when you're developing a new project or a new business, it's just a crucial aspect of conveying trust and professionalism that you want to consider. Anybody have any thoughts about that?
I was just thinking, how much does she charge? That sounds like a pretty big project of identity.
She's excellent what she does, and she's well worth the price. So I will say that. And you can find her email in the course in the full video.
I liked that it would be reassuring that everything's in one place. Like I had to laugh when you're talking about the color coding. Even trying to find it, just having it on your desktop. For me, I have multiple things on my desktop, and I have to. And there's only a small amount little snippet that I could possibly read it to know where I've put it. So I really like that it's all in one location.
Yeah, me too, because I'm constantly hunting for those color codes. I still haven't like fully memorized them all. And yeah, just to have that one central location where we're able to grab things from is crucial for the whole team, because we got social media people, we got graphic designers, we got people working on the websites, working on blogs. So just knowing that we're all drawing from the same holy grail is reassuring for me.
Yeah, no more memorizing.
Yeah.
Not color codes.
No more,
There's better
no
things
more
to
relying on my
memorize.
memory. Well, go check that out. It's in the course in the extras, so I really recommend going to see that. Next up, let's move into how to build a course. My meeting with Hedemarrie, and we'll show a little clip, and then we can talk more about that.
And so I love this template because it pushes us to think about who's my audience. But not only pushes us to think who's my audience, but it also pushes us to identify who is the facilitator. And we're not used to think about ourselves in terms of writing a biographical sketch, right? It's so uncomfortable to say things about ourselves. But this exercise pushes us to say who's going to be the facilitator. So can you see that course design can be very emotional? That's why it's so powerful. That is why it's so powerful.
Really lovely meeting with you, Hedemarrie. I thought we accomplished a lot. Just to give a little background, Kara and I are going to be putting together a course on Facebook advertising. I'm going to be working on the technical aspects. Kara's going to be talking about copywriting. And Hedemarrie really gave us an excellent framework of how to organize our information, how to make it easily digestible. And so someone with a problem can clearly see the solution. First step would be a handhold to where, here, grab my hand. I'm going to walk you through this process. And when we're done, you're going to be able to get this result. From that, you'll be able to learn about, it's called a tripwire, but a larger course that you could then purchase in order to dive deeper into the subject and so on. And so, Hedemarrie, thank you so much for that framework. And it's so helpful. I said this yesterday. Somebody could throw me a document and say, "Yeah, just fill this out," and you'll do it, and you'll have what you need. But I'm with so much on my plate right now. The thought of having the time to sit down and just focus on one thing is pretty daunting. So I really appreciate the interview process, Deirdre, same as you, to be able to just walk me through this, walk a client through this step by step, take notes, and be able to organize something. Being able to fill out that document in real time is much more efficient and easier, and produces a high quality piece of document for me and relieves a lot of stress. And I would gladly pay for that versus especially like a bio, Deirdre. You just say, here, write down talking about yourself. I would sit there and stare at that paper for 10 minutes before.
It takes a lot of I even find that in myself. I actually get a lot of joy doing other people's bikes, and I don't have to experience the same kind of looking at myself that way. And just Hedemarrie's course, like just having that kind of unpacked and go, okay, let's go and write this in. I know, it's like you're walking, it just sounds like she's walking along with me and kind of going, it's all right.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah, I just realized there is an overlap. Like if someone is following that template, at that very moment, they're going to think, I need to make an appointment with Deirdre to help me break this part down. So I really like that. I'm going to do that one with you, Deirdre.
Oh, thank you. We have to we have to talk.
Me too.
I have a course idea.
I think doing it live, like Joshua was saying, is super helpful. It helps kind of get you out of that procrastination or whatever's going on, that you're kind of moving that thing down the to-do list. If it's a meeting and it's a screen share and someone's there with you, like, sometimes that's the way to get something done. And even technical issues, like you'll be looking at something for an hour and then someone else just goes, oh, have you checked that? And boom, it's fixed. So a lot of the time a fresh set of eyes could can give you a different perspective on yourself even. And Deirdre has been helpful in doing that for myself as well, even though I still haven't sat down and actually done that yet. But it's not quite in the process of order of operations things, and we've talked about that. But Hedemarrie, I wanted to thank you for taking the time to contribute, even in the midst of your personal situation. And that shows a lot of your integrity and not necessarily your values, because like you said, I mean, your priority is obviously your husband right now. And I think it's admirable that you're able to maintain, composure and integrity. And, I apologize that you're having to go through that.
Well,
And
thank you so much for saying that. And that's one of the things that I've learned about my husband. He always said that when you have a problem or a crisis, the first thing you should do is help another person. And I saw him doing that. There is a lady from Guatemala that she's undocumented. She cleans houses. And she had a surgery a few years back. She couldn't work for 6 weeks. And so I later found out that my husband was looking for information as to how much she made in a given month. There is no way that we could have covered that, even though she cleans houses. But he did something for her. And throughout this time that I was in the hospital, she contacted me. She came yesterday and she brought me a set of pajamas, socks, and she bought me this. How did she even think about that? It was amazing. She took me out for lunch. So it's a good thing, like when you are in the midst of the crisis, to think about someone else's problems and do something. So if he's gone, I hope he's not. I hope that he will survive. But you guys are my community right now. And in a way, believe it or not, AUTONOMY has become like my little extended family. So I truly appreciate this time. This situation has been very timely. I joined AUTONOMY, and just a few weeks ago after that, this thing happened to us. So I truly appreciate every one of you. I want to be your cheerleader and try to do whatever I can do to have your business launch off the ground. So.
That's super sweet.
Yeah, I look forward to the online course material that you'll be working with Joshua on. Even just that small clip gets me super excited about that, because that's definitely on my list of things that will be implemented in the near future. I want to try my hand at this whole online course thing and membership sites. And I know, we're going to get into the course or the lecture that occurred last night, but just these tools that are all coming together at this point in the lecture and the online course, even Joshua showing examples of the branding. It's very exciting for someone like me in the phase that I'm in, because this is the part I've been kind of waiting for, is all these sort of, examples and lists. I'm a kind of a list person. So once there's a lot of bullet points on a slide, I get super excited.
Hedemarrie, how are things shaping for you with putting together a course on how to make a course? Is that starting to organize in your own mind?
Yes, very much so. And I had another meeting yesterday with Amanda. No, the day before yesterday. And in that video, I go more into break down the steps at the very end. I just give a hypothetical example, very quick, but I think you guys will be able to get from theory to, okay, how am I going to do this? And there is a little bit more to be unfolded, but that's something that I can do with every one of you on a personal basis. So, and Tyler, I really look forward to getting together with you. I know that we have to cancel that day, but that's on my to-do so that we can have that conversation.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Yeah.
That's really exciting, and I even look forward to applying this model. I know Rich is too, to autonomy, and for season 3, I think just giving it a little bit more framework can just be able to deliver a much more high quality product, because we're busting at the seams with content in this season, and I look forward to organizing that into a more digestible way. And
Yeah, I think for autonomy in season 3, there are things that we can do, but for all of you guys, if you have presentations and you need another set of eyes, improve reading, and even there is one of the cores that I want to work on is visual grammar. Just a little bit of movement in your slides helps.
Animation?
Helps, animation, that's what the word that I was looking for. Helps with a cognitive load. If you have a slide with a ton of information, the brain gets overwhelmed. But if you can help the brain digest it with animation, and if I can help you thinking through, and it doesn't take 8 weeks, it will probably take 7 minutes. So just a 7-minute meeting, if I can get you there, we will be, okay, let me say it another way. I heard one time someone that says, a lot of people are very mediocre, but if you can just do just a tiny bit more, you go a little bit beyond the surface. And a lot of people do things natural, like all of us are very talented, right? But the advantage of being in a community is that if we have another set of eyes, we'll be able to move just a tiny bit upward to that surface. And we'll be putting a product of excellence.
Awesome. That we also had a second meeting where Hedemarrie showed me how you can take your notes from a document and quickly turn them into slides through Google Slides. It took her like a minute to translate that. And so we should probably do another meeting. There was some background noise in the one we did. So you could show that again, how you just create your document, your structure of organized information, quickly translate that into all different slides, and then add on a tutorial on how to animate. Because I know Google Slides does that, and it's a simple, I'm guessing it's simple, and it would be really valuable for us to be able to make it just a little bit more excellent and have us stand out of the crowd with the quality of courses we're putting out there. Excellent. Well, thanks so much, Hedemarrie. Really appreciate what you've shared with the community and what's coming up. Deirdre, let's go ahead and jump into our little clip about our bio success. You got to know what tools there are currently in order to help reach your goals.
Aha.
I forget. Deirdre just asked me a really relevant question, and I had
I'm just quickly writing that down. That was lovely.
a knee-jerk response. And I'm recording this too, so.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, you can go back over it.
Now, see, that's real. I really like that. That's kind of sums up. That's you. That's all you. That's what you're seeing is missing in the world, and to me, that matches your values with autonomy and in the community, as well as talking to prospects, just general people out in the world. It's going from success and freedom and helping others, and you're giving tools and supports, tools, resources, methods, because in this rapidly changing environment, the way of doing things won't get you achieving things without these tools and without the resources.
Resources, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, yeah.
You said it way cool. You said it way cooler than that. But I'm glad you recorded
it. There's a synergy when you have an interview with the other person, and a piece of paper can't recreate that. So I really appreciate the insightful questions, and because it just sparked my natural process, and we really, I think, captured some good stuff. How was that process for you?
Yeah, it was really fun. Wow, re-watching myself, that was, I didn't realize that I was, for me, I was just seeing a creative process. For me, it was, it was like you were explaining a painting to me, and I'm there trying to create it for you. And I'm like, see, it's there. That was, I really enjoyed watching that. So what I was trying to do, there was a long space in between there while I was really trying to jot down the notes as fast as I could. But my main goal was a bio is to match your business goals with your values, written in a way that your prospects can understand what you're selling. And that was really what I was trying to help you draw out, because you already know, it's already in there. You already know for yourself. You're just trying to create it and manifest it. And yeah, that is hard to do. It's hard to trying to go from your mind, and then I don't know. Have you ever had a drawing that you wanted to do, and then you go to draw it on a piece of paper, and it's like, oh, okay. Well, I'm kind of there going, well, it's okay. Like, well, you know, you did have these bits. You mentioned flowers over here. We're going to draw some flowers over here. There was a beautiful tree. I'm pretty sure there was like a raven in that tree. And kind of like just really kind of develop all of that painting. That I guess that's the best way I can really talk about it.
That's really cool. That's really cool. And I know I said this in our interview, but I'm so excited that you're excited about this process, because again, me sitting down with that piece of paper, trying to answer those questions, I could easily find 100 different things to do with my time than to be spending it on that. So enjoyed this synergy between us and the lively conversation, and you just were able to pull out what's going to be an excellent bio that I'm really looking forward to seeing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, Deirdre, are you accepting other applications for bios? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people that could really use some.
Yes, I am. It's something that I've really discovered in myself. I really enjoy doing that process, helping somebody kind of unpack all of that, helping somebody know, like, really kind of come to terms about why they're doing business. And it does. Your values kind of are always in line with all of that. Like, you're creating a business to not just to sell a service, but to really kind of help build a community around you. It's like it's infectious for me. It's like this beautiful spark of energy, watching somebody realize that in themselves, and then realize that, yeah, the business that they're doing is they're doing valuable work in the world. That's just beautiful to me. I love it.
That's lovely and inspiring. Thanks so much for offering this to the community. And just from my own experience, make sure you use your sales skills and ask for your self-worth so that you can be sustained to continue to do this.
Yes. Thank you. Good tip.
All right, let's move along here. We're going to move to Tyler and Chris, who did a podcast earlier this week. Tyler, do you want to preface or give us a little intro to this?
Sure. So yeah, Chris and I met at the Red Pill Expo, and we planned, of course, like when you're traveling, you think, oh, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And then, you know, things don't exactly work out that way. So we just, at the Red Pill, said, you know what, why don't we just do it live. We'll do a live interview when we get back, and once we kind of let the red pill digest, and sometimes you kind of have some interesting thoughts afterward anyway, about something when you're reflecting on it. So it's okay to recap it. And so that's what it was. And also I've been wanting to sit down with Chris for a while now. I've been doing a lot of editing inside of the autonomy community, a lot of video editing to be more specific. And so I've seen a lot of hours of a lot of you actually. I know a lot of people in here better than they may understand that I know them, just because I've watched quite a few of the videos, going through them repetitively. When you're editing something, you might watch one part over and over and over. And so you kind of pick up little nuances about people. So when I met Chris in person, even, it was kind of like, I was surprised that we were the same height. It's always kind of, you're interested to see how your expectation of what height someone was at was totally different than when you meet them in person. Like when I'm sure a lot of the people that went to Red Pill 1 and met Richard, they're like, oh, wow, I didn't realize you were that tall. But anyways, the interview itself went really well. Some of the technical aspects of things are still being ironed out. That's why we streamed it on my channel. Not to say that my channel is not important to me or something, but it's just a test bed. It's a place where I've decided to be a little bit more loose with the content. So if there's mistakes and things, I think that's adding to the flavor, letting people see your personality, during an issue or how you might handle that. So it's just a different approach. But we did a Zoom meeting just like this. We broadcast it through OBS. We're using the voice meter banana. So all the skills that we've kind of been honing in on, Joshua and I have been working on, as well as like Cameron or Lawrence, other people trying to implement these skills. And this week being, where we're supposed to record ourselves on video and do an interview or an integration exercise in a more refined, recorded way that we can share. So, we all need to have the basics of these tools together. And so we do have the tutorials available in the community. So if anybody wants to do that with me, I was going to throw that out here. Please, let's jump on a call. You can message me and we'll jump on that. But the interview itself was great. Michael jumped in, Pam jumped in, a couple of the people that are here now with us. So it was great to have the community also be able to join us and contribute to the interview. So yeah, anybody can go check that out. But we also have a small clip here with Chris explaining his experience with autonomy.
Autonomy is everything that people need to learn to become more independent. Life skills that are not taught in high school or in university, at least not stressed at how important they can be. I'm talking about the ability for anyone to hone in on to reach their true potential, whatever they're interested in, to survive and make money for themselves, skills to become more independent. This does the name, autonomy. So basically it's a business class, I would say business, life skills course, but these are the life skills that are probably the most important life skills anyone would need, and you didn't get them. And you did not get them. You did. If you went to college and high school, they were not stressed enough how important they are. So that basically sums it up.
Yeah, another thing that happened this week in the community was a conversation with Michael and I. We jumped in the real speak room and had another conversation, kind of continuing on the ongoing discussion. This topic was a little bit different. We were talking about the path to freedom. And is that an individual journey or the journey of a group? Can more than one person take the same path towards freedom? I had a slide that I'd used in previous works and we refined that. And now there's new versions of that slide that I can use post that conversation. But it's like Chris was saying there, like those skills are not taught. Like there's all this like, window dressings on the curtain or whatever on the window about how the school is going to give you all these tools and you can do anything you want in life, but really there's so much left out of that closed trivium model that they're providing. It's not the trivium model that allows for all the information and all the different tools to be implemented. There's a closed loop there, And there's definitely things like Chris was saying there that are left out of the public education agenda, you know. And it seems so simple when you hear it, or when you might first come across what Chris is saying. It's, you know, seems oversimplified, or, you know, that he's reaching. But, you know, he knows a lot of the history here, you know, and he was there for the Alex Newman presentation. So, you know, Chris is not far off, and that's why I wanted to interview him as well, is because he knows his stuff.
Well, it's really valuable for you guys to capture that and be able to share it back into the community, because with so much going on through the week, there's just so much going on that it's good to hear some personal one-on-one discussions and getting to know you both more deeply. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd just like to chime in on that as well. I think, you know, this is another really example to me in regard to, you know, just how deep our, the group of students we've got here are. It's just amazing. You know, listening to Tyler's interview of Chris and participating in it, I was just truly amazed by Chris's background. And, you know, the discussion me and Tyler had, I really did enjoy, you know, our differences of opinion on, and different perspectives on something that seemed rather minute. But I think we both gained out of having that discussion. And, you know, I feel stronger about some of the things that I derived from that conversation. And then, you know, all the things that we're doing in regard to these interviews and stuff like that are really valuable. I watched a little interview that Tony had with Timothy, one of the newer students. And man, again, I was just truly amazed by the, you know, by the depth of talent and skills and ability and experience that, you know, I think each of us brings to the table. I mean, we're just scraping the surface of the potential we've got, and it really is amazing. And I want to shout out to Tyler. I want to shout out to Tim, because he helped me this week. Agnieszka, and certainly Hedemarrie. I can't say enough about her, and, you know, her attitude in this situation. You know, her description earlier, man, it practically brought a tear to my eye. How you know, a great an attitude she brings to this community. I'm thrilled.
Well said. Thanks, Michael. We're glad you're here. All right, next up, we're going to move into Brett's Mastermind. Tyler has a clip from that, and let's just jump to it.
But like 12, 13, 14 years ago, I really thought that I was part of a movement that was going to transform the world, like by now, you know. And there's lots of things that have gotten better. There's lots of things that have gotten worse. But that transformation hasn't happened. But I've changed a lot in a lot of positive ways in that time. And I think part of that was obviously creating a community, and the feedback that I get from that is generally positive. And that's I think my place. And, you know, I hope I can expand it. I'm trying to expand it as part of the motivation behind this conversation tonight. But yeah, that's where I'm at. So I think we found a lot of agreement. I saw Martin unmute a couple of times. I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add, or we've got plenty of time left if anybody else wants to jump in on this question.
Yeah, well, somebody joins, you know, feel free to unmute and turn your camera on, but I'll just kind of chime in on what you said there, that I thought that was beautiful, and I feel the same way, honestly. I think that the way that you summarized that is exactly how I've kind of been thinking about things lately, and it's like I said earlier, that I'm at peace with a lot of it, but there's a profound sadness too, and I think coming at people instead of with anger about their moral relativism or their blindness or their how asleep they are is justified, right? I think we're justified to feel those feelings, but to take that, transmute that into something else, some kind of output that you can work on. And like you said, like that's a person, a human being, and they're damaged in front of you. Like for the most of the time, like they might even be physically damaged from what's going on here, right? Like
Sure.
there's a war going on these people, on all of us, right? And even to yourself, like, oh, I'm not being as effective as I can be. Why am I not able to do these things? Like I have to be that way with myself too at times. Like, you know, recognize that, you know, we're working sometimes with damaged goods that still are in need of a lot of repair. So maybe, you know, maybe being a repairman is a better title than sheepdog, or, you know, and here I am wearing a sheep that says, this is my shirt. I don't wear this out in public. I do wear that sometimes.
Wait,
so
can I take a screenshot of that? Do I have your permission?
Yeah, Richard gave me a good idea that it should say you, like EWE, right? Which is still pronounced you.
Yeah.
My wife made that for me. I didn't go like buy that just for me. She thought it was funny. I think it's funny too.
Tyler, how valuable is it to be able to be a part of those masterminds?
It's extremely valuable, and Brett, I really like what he's bringing to the table, and I wasn't sure what to think at first, you know, and I did even ask him in that call, like, not like rudely or anything, just like what, because he asked, you know, let's back up a little bit here. Brett started that whole conversation and asked, you know, what do you see? What does the community members see out there with people kind of going halfway with information, or they don't understand what they don't need, or whatever the phrase is that Brett throws out there. I think it's a quote from Richard anyways, like people don't know what they don't need, or what they need, or something like that. They don't understand. But he in his own way is trying to find how he can be more effective with his own work. And that was ultimately the root of his question, which I kind of had to get to through prompting him. But, you know, it's no problem. I just wanted to know more about why he had come to the table with that question. And he was very honest and explained that he himself was going through a period of trying to understand how he could provide more value and be more effective in his own endeavors, right? But he was posing it as a question of how we all kind of see people at different levels and what we could do to help them with where they're at. And anyone who's ever tried or attempted to do that knows that is probably the most difficult task in the world to do, is to try to influence others with wisdom that you've discovered. And then Martin chimed in there, and he provided a great background of his definition of freedom, and the kind of how some people can bring that as a dialectical thing of my, you know, freedom from or freedom to, you know, and a lot of people seems like they're on the path of freedom from rather than the freedom to. I think that was Martin's point ultimately. But no, it's extremely valuable. I would like to hear from some other people that might have been on that mastermind or were joined Brett's other masterminds, how they feel, you know, those meetings are going.
I did catch Martin's definition of freedom, and I'd like to unpack that a little bit more if we can, just because when we say that word, I mean, I'm wearing this shirt today, but some people translate that as something different than what I'm pursuing.
Who wants to unpack it then? I think Michael could chime in. And he's down there in Acapulco, Mexico, and so he must have some idea of a pursuit of some sort of thing that could be identified as freedom. Michael, how do you define it?
Well, that's, you know, it's a big question because there's a lot to it. You know, I think there's a lot of elements that go into really understanding what's the perfect recipe for getting freedom. And that was part of our discussion. Is it something that's like internal in us, or is it something that's external? and it's a combination, but I do believe, and certainly my experience here in Acapulco has been in one in which I've had to take responsibility for myself, and essentially all the responsibility. This is kind of considered one of the most dangerous cities in the world, and to some degree, a lot of people are afraid to come down here. But it's actually one of the most freest places in the world too, because you have the ability to take full responsibility for yourself and be your own authority. And so, I can basically say no to anybody, whether it's guy with a uniform on, or, somebody that might look like they could be a cartel guy, or just anybody else.
Can you explain that a little bit more clearly? Like, what makes Acapulco unique?
I think that is it. Being an American and having like a policeman come up to you and say, "Hey, show me your, where's your ID? Let me see your ID," or something like that. Here in Acapulco, you can have that same situation where a uniformed person comes up and says that to you, and you can say, "I'm sorry, no." I don't know if you're a cartel guy dressed up as a policeman. I don't know who the hell you are, and honestly, I'm not doing anything wrong, so leave me alone. And of course, you got to be mindful again, but the bottom line is it's one of these things where I started to realize how much authority I really have over myself and my situation, my environment. I can choose, and I have responsibility over what the situations I get myself into, what parts of the city I go to. All these things are really my choice, and it's my responsibility to take care of my own safety, as well as all the other benefits that come about through that, because if I'm a nice guy and I treat people well, that also translates into people seeing me as somebody that's valuable and they want to have around, And so on the opposite side is all these other creative opportunities that can take place, because I really have that kind of, it is kind of understanding that there's danger and there's fear, and there's a difference between those two. And so what Richard advocates, doing it live, taking action and asking questions and stuff like that, and asking for things from people, whether they be a hotel owner or something else. If the opportunity presents itself, it could change everything, so, but that's all within my responsibility. And that's what I think, my experience here in Acapulco is given to me. And I think it is a lot about freedom in that regard of, taking on your own personal authority rather than resting it with somebody else or some other entity, which is what I think, what I would call the old world mentality, that it's a king or a queen or a government or somebody else that basically is responsible for my situation. It's not, it's mine.
I think that's crucial, that self-responsibility. I mean, that's at the core of what autonomy is taking responsibility for our actions, for ourselves. And these are inherent rights that we have as human beings. And as a society, we're taught to outsource those to the government, to the group. And we really have to learn about our potential and claim that freedom for ourselves. Daniel, do you have any philosophical view to add to this?
Well, I don't know how philosophical I could get, but the question of freedom is something that I have to wrestle with, because it is, although maybe relatively simple, it's pretty difficult to define. But I would say about self-sustainability and self-responsibility that whether we like it or not, we have it laid out in front of us, and it's just a matter of, do we want to accept the reality that for us to move forward in the world, we have to make decisions with a level of critical thinking that will get us to our goal in the least destructive way possible to ourselves and to others. You could live in communist China, Soviet Russia. It's no different. I mean, this is coming from somebody who's never been to either of those places. And I don't mean to say that there aren't extra challenges that those totalitarian systems encumber one with, but every single human being who's not cognitively impaired has the ability to make decisions. And so that could be within a totalitarian state, that could be the decision to, maybe quietly dissent and begin to foment some sort of campaign. Like Solzhenitsyn is a good example. In the Soviet system, this was a guy who was in the Gulag, and because he decided, even though he was imprisoned in a snowy desert wasteland, he made a conscious decision to put down information about the situation that he was in. And by finally getting that information out in the form of a gigantic published book, 3 books, he was able to really reveal to the rest of the world what was going on in the Soviet system. So his decision, within the most limited constraints, was able to have a tremendous effect. And so that's what I mean when I say that we all have these decisions in front of us that we can make. And so with regards to self-sustainability, no matter where you are in the world, you got to eat. And if you have kids, you got to feed them. And you have to sleep, you have to have shelter. So it's just a matter of, do we want to pretend that we can outsource these decisions to other people? We could pretend to outsource these responsibilities, which I think a lot of people unfortunately delude themselves into thinking is possible. Somebody else will take care of that. No, they won't. I mean, maybe for a little while, but in the long run, you have to be the one that knows where your needs are coming from and how they're being met. So, I mean, that's probably not the tightest explanation of where I'm coming from, but I think that maybe in there somewhere is my thought. Maybe somewhere it's in there. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that no matter where you are, who you are, and what you're doing, you always have some choice. And even if it's an apparently small choice, like taking a journal while you're in prison, like Solzhenitsyn did, that might just be the most important thing you've ever done, even if it seems inconsequential at the time. So.
Even how you're framing the situation in your mind is your choice. Here's an example. You are to meet a friend at a coffee shop. You go there and 2 things happen. 2 things have the possibility of happening. They're running late and they didn't text or call you about that. So spend 10 minutes now. You're sitting there. They haven't called or text. And you can either appreciate this extra 10 minutes into your day because you're able to pull out your organizer, pull out your phone, answer some emails, get to some reading that you had on the side. You could be productive in that 10 minutes. Or you could be fuming for those 10 minutes because this guy, what nerve, I can't believe he hasn't even texted or called, no regard for what situation that other person's in, but then you're just upset and you're upset. And that is your choice. You can choose to frame that scenario in any way that you want. You can be productive with it, or you can be spending your time pissed off, but it is a choice.
Exactly. You could spend the 10 minutes figuring out a way to make the meeting more condensed and productive now that it's shorter, or you could spend that 10 minutes crafting the perfect, witty, undercutting insult that you could deliver to that bastard when he finally arrives late. It's all up to you.
Right.
So,
Well,
so in other words, it would be fair to say that we are responsible. Being autonomous means that we are responsible for our success, but we are also responsible for our failure. From what I hear you say.
And we're learning failure is not a bad thing, right? Like we're taught in school, like you don't get an F, don't fail. But in real life, we're learning you fail fast, because that's the only way you're going to be able to get that feedback data in order to course correct and become better.
Yeah,
Right.
I really like that Michael injected the word responsibility into this conversation, and then Daniel carried on with that theme. Hedemarrie just capitalized on that, because that's the word that comes up for me when, as of late, it wasn't always this way, but freedom really is responsibility, and as much responsibility as you can manage to take on. I think it may seem uncomfortable, but like Hedemarrie opened up saying, like, her husband's philosophy is in a moment of, crisis, like, take on some responsibility. Well, why is that? Because, that's the most effective way out of that situation, right? It's not to take on your personal needs at that time. If you're not bleeding all over the place, is the person next to you okay? Or is whatever the situation is, whether it's not so drastic as that, but so no masters, no slaves. I've always taken sort of issue with this, because there is one master, and it's mastery over the self. And so if we're saying there's absolutely no master, and I don't want to, start a dumpster fire here, but, there is a master at home. And same with government. Like, we're against, external control. The people here in this group seem to be opposed to the external form of control, right? And government itself, gubernare, to govern or to control, mente, the mind, right? So it's mind control. And you could take that in the negative connotation, right? And say, well, no, I'm opposed to someone controlling my mind. But self-governance would then just imply that it's, you're controlling your mind. And so the more in control of your own thoughts and actions that you are, and the more that that's in alignment with, what you actually do in the world, the actions that you take, I think, that is freedom to me, and to be more, defined about it. And that doesn't mean freedom to do whatever you want to do, right? That's the opposite, I think, because it's freedom to be in control of the different things that you are going to take responsibility for, as much responsibility as you can manage to take. And the more people that do that, instead of running away from every responsibility possible and trying to always have external mind control and external masters, things like this, right? So sovereignty of the individual, mastery over the self, these are things that aren't necessarily ideologically in exactness with even a lot of the freedom movement stuff. But Pam, you're off mute there. Are you trying to chime in?
I thought I would. Thanks, Tyler. Yes, this is such an uplifting conversation today. I really needed this. I have not been able to be with you all as much as I wanted to, or be able to interact with the curriculum as much as I've wanted to, because of life getting in the way. But something that's been extremely real to me, and I want to share with all of you, I'm very, very proud that despite conditions not being completely ideal for anybody here, that actually is life. If we wait and wait and wait until everything's ideal, we run out of time. So again, there's that wonderful word that I've been saying a lot and sharing with people a lot. Choose. I get to choose. So when I choose, it can be for good or for bad. It can be for building up or tearing down. Just like the example of the waiting, as Daniel mentioned, you can choose what to do with that time. And sadly, many people in a fixed mindset would be fuming and angry. They're disrespecting me, blah, blah, blah. People in a growth mindset would say, I've got some next actions I could do while waiting. Let's make the most of this little moments here in my life that have presented themselves. So again, it's all in how you choose to look at it. So thank you all so much for sharing this morning. It's very uplifting for me.
Very wise words. And we could obviously talk about freedom all day, and we do in the community. In the remaining time that we have for today's show, I want to jump into what we covered in last night's lecture. The title of the lecture was Gain Confidence Through Action. And I wasn't able to catch a lot of it, but the group here grabbed some slides. So we'll go ahead and jump into that right now. Tyler, you grab this slide and you want to share why this stood out to you and give a little context?
Yeah, if I can find the mute button there. So I think the subtitle was also The Anatomy of a Money Printing Machine. And I like that. Again, getting into the more details, I really appreciated the opening up of the season and getting into more of the psychological hurdles and what's going on inside. That was all great too. But this part of the lecture is kind of the meat, or the things that I can take and move over to a list of actionable items that I can then take. And so these old world skills, not necessarily that though. So this was more the beginning of the lecture, talking about how people, used to do things, and that those are still extremely valuable skills to have, and that we shouldn't forget about them just because we can generate an affiliate marketing website and we don't have to actually ever really interact with a human being and kind of sit back as the ghost in the machine and just never really have to go outside of your little office. Like, there's still the going out, getting boots on the ground, face-to-face conversations, shaking hands with people, going and meeting them in their offices. And I really liked the old world skills slide there. So yeah, I find that valuable.
Yeah, just capturing, just going through that list. And man, if I could have given that list to my 15-year-old self and said, hey, work towards accomplishing these, could have saved me a lot of challenges. But apparently I needed those challenges to get to where I am right now. But still, that's a really great list, because those are all attainable for everybody, and each of those will make your life more prosperous. Jumping into the next slide, fear of mistakes. Tyler, I'm going to lean on you to
yeah, no problem.
It's
this talking about past trauma, kind of making you hesitant to move forward. I can definitely relate to this, and I'm experiencing it now. I've had business endeavors that didn't go how I planned it, obviously. Sometimes that happens, and you do have to kind of pick yourself up and dust yourself off and move forward from that. And the faster you can do that, the better, really. And you don't want to just ignore whatever happened in your previous business endeavor, as this is more geared towards moving forward with business. But this could relate with anything, right? Starting a new relationship. This is very important to keep in mind in that circumstance as well, that you're not just ignoring whatever went wrong in the last situation, right? Especially as it pertains to what you did and the things that you're accountable for and responsible for doing. So if the business that you previously started failed because of a lot of the things that you weren't prepared to take on, or a lot of the different things that you're not, strong enough yet with to move forward on, like AdWords or Google, Facebook ads. A lot of the time I think people get into the business and then they'll pick up AdWords as they go, and you get in there, and I mean, yeah, you can set up an account and spend a lot of money, but really nailing that in properly is a whole career in itself, and people do that as a career. Joshua Hale and other people like that set these things up professionally and actually really know what they're doing. So that can become daunting maybe in your first endeavor, and then if you fail from something like that, a lot of people may take that scar and that wound and lick it for the rest of their life and never come back to that, right? And never learn from that experience. But if you're going to go back at it again, you have to, and then the action items here to get out of that are have a place where you can engage with other people. They'll give you feedback and action items. And then if there is small hiccups and failures along the way, those people can help you providing support so that you don't just fall flat on your face. And that is important, and goes back to what Michael and I were even talking about earlier this week, such as, just because your freedom might be a unique path of your own doesn't mean you can't work with other people along the way. And a lot of the time that's going to make your endeavor more of a success. So not just doing it in isolation either, having people to work with.
I'd just like to chime in on this one, because this particular slide I think is really important, because I think it allows people, I think, to really identify, the idea of fear and how trauma affects them. The idea of public speaking, for example, that is a conditioned fear that most people have obviously experienced. But the reality is that isn't a fear that's natural. That's something that has been instilled in each person. And the benefits of being able to speak publicly is immense. I think they say something like, if you're an effective public speaker, your income is multiplied by 3. And so why wouldn't people be trying to earn 3 times as much money as they could if they understood that public speaking is actually something that's very effective? And it's like a triple bonus for whatever they're doing. But it's the reality of how much that trauma and how much that fear hinders people, that like 95% of people are that's their greatest fear, is to get in front of people and speak.
I guess in school, being forced to share a project or something you wrote in front of a class that's built off of competition and stepping on each other in order to succeed produces some fears in sharing with a crowd. Anyone else have that experience?
It is like one of the number one fears people say they have, right? Like most people say they're terrified of public speaking. So it's an interesting point that, that situation can be quite traumatic as a child. I didn't think of it that way, Joshua. Like you said, like people that we're kind of in competition with, even though that might not be healthy either. But that's kind of the schoolyard environment, and to be put up in front of your peers like that and just have to do it. Maybe that's a good thing in some cases, and in other cases, maybe it's not. And that's the problem with molding everyone into one uniform way of doing things, is that, you're missing out on that introvert's. Not only does he not want to do it, he's like absolutely, traumatized by it. And you just missed that because you just thought they should all just do it, and that's a great example of how that cookie cutter model just fails on the large majority of the people they try to put it through.
I got one more slide for last night. Before we go to that, was there any points of last night's lecture that really hit you like a ton of bricks that you wanted to share?
Really, you'll lose 100% of the offers you don't make. I mean, simply stated, you've heard it before, but just to reinforce that point, that the actions that you don't take. I think another way that he stated it in a different slide was you lose when you're not learning as well. So both of those things combined together, I think.
You're right. And that's what I was going to share next was... You lose 100% of the offers that you don't make. And I don't know if I can speak for everybody, but that is 100% true in my life, and something I didn't even have the courage to face that a few years ago, that I was just coming up with excuse after excuse on why I wasn't going to try and try to accomplish something that I couldn't even come to that truth. Well, switching up our topic, is anybody excited for this upcoming week? Do you have anything on the calendar that you're looking forward to? Is there anything that you have cooking that you're excited to share with the community?
I'm looking forward to meeting with Deirdre now that I know that she's going to amplify part of that framework that I was sharing with you, Joshua, and the biographical sketch. Now I can even think about how to upscale that idea. And then I'm looking forward to meet with Tyler because there are a lot of gaps in my knowledge that I have, and I think he could help me bridge or fill those gaps. I'm also looking forward to work on Mike's project. He shared something about that yesterday, and I was looking at the video, and I have some ideas that I can share with him. So those things are like a boost to look forward to every day. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much. I will be messaging you.
Well, I look forward
You
to
need it.
meeting with more autonomizers, and I look forward to doing some more video interviews. And I would like to get back into doing those more frequently, especially Agnieszka. I caught myself on that one. Haha. It's working. No, I'm just kidding. The coaching is working. Your little exclamation points that you send me in the chat when I say something wrong is working. See, that's great. But no, really, I want to dig in. Something Richard said last night was like, don't get overconfident just because you know how to record on a video and talk to people. Like, you still need to do these exercises, and that kind of hit home with me. Like, yeah, that's true. Like, I really do need to get back into the actual coursework here because this is important stuff that these skills that I'm lacking in that I joined this course for. Just because I can get on here and rant and take a bunch of mouth noises and make them sound decent doesn't mean, and that's a little bit of pat on my own back there. Thanks, Tyler. But it's something that I should dive back into is the actual integration exercises. So this week I'm going to hold myself to that and set one up. My Calendly/Tyler Bloyer for students in the class. For people outside of it, if you jump on there randomly, well, we'll still meet and see what you need. But anybody else in the group here have upcoming things this week they want to talk about?
Well, I'm gonna chime in on this one because there's just so many things, activities and stuff going on that it just seems to be growing every day and every week. More things that almost like a buffet of different valuable things. But I know we've got a kind of a book club, a great books club that I'm going to I think is going to happen today, and I'm looking forward to checking that out. We've got a raising excellence group that I think is really exciting that I'm going to be participating in. And like just this week, I mean, almost every day there was a new discovery from me, from one of the people in this community. And just to chime in on something in regard to the freedom thing, it is also, there's a lot of internal, there's a lot of self-responsibility and stuff, but there's also kind of this role that we have to play for others and kind of creating an environment in which other people can grow too. And that's a beautiful thing about autonomy, is this is that supportive growth environment that we can utilize, and we can kind of help each other grow. I mean, one of the things I think that Richard said last night that really hit me was that opportunity to add value, and essentially he worded it as helping. Every time that we have an opportunity where we're trying to deliver something, we're trying to do some work for somebody, and there's that opportunity to add some value by looking at what they're telling you and maybe finding something that they may need, and then saying, well, I can help you with that too, is adding value. And that's this environment that kind of environment is what's missing from our society, from the greater society. And it's probably the thing that, that makes people so apathetic and so hardened and negative in nature, is because they don't get that opportunity. They don't see people trying to help them. And that isn't kind of the first option for them, but it is here. And it's a wonderful thing. So I'm looking forward to that for this week and for the rest of my life, because it's a lesson I'm going to carry on forever.
Joshua, you're muted.
Inspiring words, Michael. Thanks so much for sharing that. Daniel, do you have anything scheduled for this upcoming week other than your Righteous Podcasts playlist?
Well, Mike mentioned the book club. Our meeting is going to be in about an hour and a half, and we're going to talk about the Odyssey. So I'm looking forward to that. I've really been enjoying reading these ancient Greek poems, which I know maybe to a lot of people that doesn't sound all that appealing, but I swear they're actually good. Aside from that, like you mentioned, I'm going to curate myself a productive playlist for this week at work. I've got a meeting tomorrow with Deirdre. We're going to continue talking about my writing process as far as my book project is going. I've managed to make some, I think, pretty large strides toward finishing that project. So I look forward to squeezing in some writing time this week as well. As I said last time I was on the show, I'm always looking for some interviews with people in the community. So I'm going to throw my Calendly link in the Clubhouse chat here in a second. I would love to get to know people that I haven't met, or even just catch up with people I have met. So I have nothing scheduled so far as that goes. So I'm open. And that pretty much summarizes my week.
Awesome. That's a valuable offer to the community to have a conversation with Daniel. You'll both grow from that.
Indeed.
My upcoming week, I'm leveling up my business. I actually have 3 websites to finish. One, that's JH Marketing, my sole proprietor business. Next up is to finish the Get Autonomy website, getting close to that. And then following that will be the Autonomy Unlimited website. So I'm really excited. I'm going to plan on getting all 3 of those done by the end of the month and start the new year off in a really powerful and great direction. I have one more clip for today. It's a 5-minute clip, but it is Benny Wills, who's a member of Autonomy. He pops in and out, but he's there in the background. He has a video called "The Truth About Polio" that I'm going to play. That really is a bombshell. So,
Polio by Liam Sheff, an excerpt from Official Stories. Polio appeared in industrialized nations. It came seemingly out of nowhere and exploded in clusters. Those affected would experience muscular weakness, leaving some paralyzed and killing a few. Industrial history, i.e., use of poisonous chemicals, had demonstrated that neurological and paralytic illnesses tended to act just this way. But academic scientists had no interest in toxins. The growing concern in medicine was to nail down tiny particles. Pollution was not on the agenda. Instead, the focus went on something invisible, something never seen but suspected to be there. These invisibles would be blamed for all illness, and vaccines would be invented to stop them. So, what was the real invention? Ask the question, who funds university research? Chemical, oil, and pharmaceutical companies. And you can't sue a virus. You can, however, sue industry, and industry doesn't want to be blamed for causing most of the ailments of the modern age. And they have a ready-made scapegoat, a virus, which they pay to discover and to develop vaccines for, and you pay to be protected. Back to polio. Some doctors were arguing that pesticides were responsible for the outbreak because it was appearing in children eating chemicals sprayed on orchard fruit and playing downstream from sprayed cotton fields and mills. Poliomyelitis has had many different names: paralysis, palsies, and apoplexy. It's a problem of chemical exposure. Throughout history, workers exposed to fumes of metals and chemicals developed paralysis, sometimes passing, sometimes fatal. The chemicals to blame: mercury, phosphorus, lead, and arsenic. It was recorded over and over again: arsenic, carbon monoxide, lead, mercury, cyanide. Chemicals used in industry and agriculture caused palsies, paralysis, and death. The chemical industries rolled out a new wonder chemical to stop polio: DDT, dichloro-diphenyl trichloroethane. It got a big commercial push and was endorsed by the U.S. government. People were encouraged to use it liberally on everything, everywhere. And polio rates skyrocketed. Children were dropping, and a cry went out for relief from the summer plague. So the race to make a vaccine began. The vaccine, containing material drained out of monkey kidneys and chemicals including formaldehyde, was released to the general public in 1955. Thousands of kids were injected and the polio rate exploded. That's when the medical authorities stepped in, the CDC, NIH, and the WHO, and decided to change the definition of polio. Up until then, polio was the name given to any illness within range of a neurological perturbance: muscle weakness, a summer flu with tingling in the arms, a weakened limb, and rarely a flaccid or paralyzed limb. If you had it for a day, you had polio. After 1956, however, polio was only one illness: severe paralysis. And the majority of what had been polio just went away. Only paralysis would count in the post-vaccine period, and only if you had it for 2 months, from 24 hours to 60 days. So, polio rates plummeted, and the vaccine was publicized as a success. And if you got sick within 15 days of being incepted, you already had polio, and it wasn't the vaccine's fault. They controlled the interpretation of the data, so they wrote the history to reflect their successes. It's that simple. And now you know. They changed the definition. Vaccines didn't cure polio.
I'm going to leave that mic drop there. Go follow Benny Wills on his YouTube channel, and you can catch more of his truth bombs. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for another successful Do It Live Autonomy podcast. Make sure to subscribe. I think we're going to be showing up on BitChute here with this release, so follow us there. Follow us on YouTube so you don't miss another episode. If you want to get autonomy for yourself, go to getautonomy.com and figure out how to bring this into your life. Thanks, everybody, for showing up. See you again next week.